Today, 3 delightful pasta. I'm sure you'll want to make your own, and especially since each sauce takes no longer than it takes to cook the pasta. Lumache, little snails, with sun-dried tomatoes, artichokes, garlic, and oil. Capellini, with anchovies and tomato. And tagliatelle with a butter and sage sauce. Quick and delicious. So join me for those bright flavors right here at Lydia's family table. Buongiorno, I'm Lidia Bastianich and welcome to Lydia's family table. And today on the menu, 3 quick pastas that will quickly become your favorite. We're going to have capellini with tomatoes and anchovies. We're going to have lumache with sun-dried tomatoes, artichokes and garlic. And we're going to have tagliatelle with sage and walnut sauce. And we'll begin with chiocciole, or lumache, means little snail. You know, the shape of pasta is so important on the tactile sensation it gives you and how it collects sauce. But all 3 of the sauces will take no longer than it takes to cook the pasta. So let's put the pasta in and let the clock start ticking. So, salted boiling water, throw it right in, give it a whirl, okay, and just cover it, just a little bit of jar. And we'll begin with the sauce. A bit of olive oil. Let's slice up some garlic here. You want to head nice and firm, just like this one, and compact for the best garlic. When the garlic feels soft and it crumbles in your hand, then it's not really in its optimal condition. Lots of garlic, yes. And you want the garlic to just sort of slightly caramelize, nice and yellow, not too much. We'll add to that some sun-dried tomatoes, and these sun-dried tomatoes are quite nice, and you could even get them dry, or after they're dry, they're sort of cured in olive oil, which these ones are. And when you're making pasta sauce, if they're nice and moist, it sort of blends better with the sauce itself. And just cutting it into slices like that, pieces, because they'll disintegrate to some extent. Put it right in. I think I would like a little more here. Okay. We have a whole pound of pasta, so we want it nice and flavorful. And again, we're just caramelizing the sun-dried tomatoes, and it sort of brings out that flavor. And you know, you smell it right when you're cooking. And here are artichokes, sliced artichokes that have been preserved in olive oil. Now, if you can notice, these are all things from your cupboard. And on any given night, coming home from work or just a tiresome day or whatever, you can just open your cupboard and come up with this dish. The pasta is really cooking. And just for a little freshness here, I'm going to grate in a little bit of lemon rind. I use that lemon rind a lot of time to freshen up dishes. You try it yourself. I do it in braisings. I do it in pasta dishes, even in salads. Just a little bit of lemon zest will just give you a lift, a real lift. I think I'd like a little peperoncino. Salt, I think we might have enough. The pasta water is salted, and the dried tomatoes have some salt. I like it nice and zesty. And now to sort of make it into a sauce, some of the pasta boiling water. And the sauce simmering a few minutes while the pasta is finishing cooking, we'll be ready to enjoy a plate of lumache with sun-dried tomatoes and artichokes. Okay, I think the pasta is done. Drain it somewhat because these little conchiglie, this little shell, retain a lot of water. Let's put it right in. Can you just see how this sort of nooks and crannies will take in the artichokes and the sun-dried tomato? Okay. Can I just do it chef style a little bit? I'm gonna just flip it like that. Up. So what am I doing? I'm pushing out and pulling in before the pasta really gets out. So I'm pushing out and in, out and in, out and in. That's it. Okay. So here we are. And it might not look that it's really saucy, and there's enough flavor to go for the whole pasta. Gotta trust me sometime. Just perfect. Shut the heat off, a little cheese, and perfetto. And a nice warm plate. And a nice tall mound. That looks good. Let's see, a little nice pomodoro right on top. A little prezzemolo just to add a little bit of that color. And I think that looks beautiful. And did you see how quick? Now, I have to taste it, you know, because I just can't have this pasta in front of me. And then how would you know unless I told you? All right, a little artichokes, a little pomodoro secco. Delicious, really. You know, it looks like mellow. That tomato just punches you on one side. The artichokes just punches you on the other side. And the peperoncino, so you have an explosion in your mouth. Really, really good. Tagliatelle. Tagliatelle, dry tagliatelle. You know, I made fresh tagliatelle. This is dry tagliatelle. And they're just as good. And we'll talk a little bit about dry pasta versus fresh pasta, but let's get them in the water, spread them out. And you know what I always tell you when the pasta is long, let it settle in. Don't push it in. It will crack, it will break, and us Italians like our pasta long. That's all there is to it. So let's start with the sauce itself. And the sauce couldn't be any simpler. It is butter, it is walnuts, and it is sage. This wonderful herb called sage. It really is great. But let me put the butter in before the pan gets too hot. Okay. And you need a substantial amount of butter because you have a pound of pasta. And you can mix a little bit with oil if you'd like, but I'll keep it just with the butter this time. Leaves, whole leaves of sage right in there. And sage gives a lot of aroma to a sauce. I don't particularly like to get sage and eat it under my teeth and chew it, but I love when the sage flavor permeates the pasta or the sauce. So I put whole leaves, and then you can pull them off to the side. Let me just pick up a little bit the heat, and we'll give it just a few minutes so that the heat begins to release the oil essence of the sage. Walnuts, let's put that in. It's a pound. Yeah, let's put the whole thing. And I'm going to let that toast a little bit. I want the walnuts, you know, whenever you use nuts, whether it's in baking, whether it's making sauce, always toast it first. It really brings out these oil, those essence, you know, flavonoids. Flavonoids are flavor molecules. And they travel best attached to fat. That's why we all love fat. But when you cook and you expand those fat molecules, it sort of releases the aromas. The aromas escape because the heat expands the fat molecule. So let me just put a little bit of salt right here. It is toasting. Let me mix the pasta and see how that is doing. Okay. Yeah, that will take a little longer. I want a little more toast. So let me talk to you about dry pasta and fresh pasta. Two completely different worlds. Is one better than the other? No, both equally as good. Dry pasta is dry, hard pasta. And it is traditionally made of 100% semolina or durum wheat flour, which is the hard flour, which is higher in gluten, and water, nothing else. Durum wheat flour and water, and then they pass it through an extruder and cut out the shapes. Now, here we have the walnuts have just toasted, the butter is just becoming a little brown, a lot of complex flavors. We'll put some of the water from the pasta cooking, and we'll just let that develop into a sauce. And when the pasta is a little bit al dente, we'll put it in and toss it all together with some cheese. So the pasta is ready for the sauce. And did you see how nice the sauce, sort of all the flavors seem, I see that they came out. I don't know if you see, but I see that all the flavors have come out. There's a nice color to the sauce, a nice aroma. So I'm cooking the pasta in the sauce, so it is absorbing into the pasta some of the flavors. You know, I chose the nooks and crannies before for the sun-dried tomatoes and the artichokes. I chose the tagliatelle for this one. Why? Well, this is a much mellower sauce, so you can see the butter all adhere to the tagliatelle, sort of coat each strand, and then the walnuts sort of dancing in between it. It's just flat pasta goes much better with butter-based sauces, and nooks and crannies much better with tomatoes and chunky sauces. So here we are. I think the viscosity is just perfect. I'm going to shut the fire. Now I have walnuts here. Could you do this with hazelnuts if you prefer? I think you could. Could you do it with almonds? I think you could, but I just like walnuts and sage together. I'm going to add the cheese, grated cheese, and grated cheese at the end always, because I don't want it to cook and break. I just want the freshness of cheese, of that milkiness, to come forth with the warmth of the pasta. Okay, I think we're at a good point. And I'm going to plate a plate full. And again, a nice warm plate you want. You want to set it in the middle, give it a twist, make a nice little mound. Is that enough for you? A little more? Oh, okay, I'll give you a little more. Nice little mound right here. I'm going to spoon some of those toasted walnuts right on top. Okay. And I could put a little bit of grated cheese, and this will bring forth some of the freshness of sage again. All right, that's a perfect dish. And I just can't wait to taste it for you. Okay. Just delicious. The underlying butter and cheese that everybody loves, then it's spiked with the sage, and then the crunchiness of the walnuts. The perfect dish. Capellini with anchovies, garlic, oil, capers, and a little tomato. Another one of those recipes right out of the cupboard. You don't need to go in shopping for this. And let's begin, of course, with a little bit of olive oil. The olive oil garlic beginning is always a good, safe beginning. The pasta water is boiling, but we're dealing with capellini, you know, that angel hair, and that will need a minute, if a little bit more, and then I'll finish it in the sauce, so we'll wait until we have all the ingredient for the sauce in the pan. Okay. We'll let that slightly caramelize. And we'll add the anchovies. Now these anchovies are packed in olive oil, and you can chop them up or you can put them whole, and then they break right into the sauce. I like the taste of anchovies pronounced, but you know what? Once the anchovy breaks down, you almost don't taste it. A lot of people, oh, anchovy, anchovy, anchovy. Anchovy gives a lot of great flavor, depends on how much you use, and sometimes you don't even know that they're there. We'll add some capers. Okay. And then some tomatoes, just diced tomatoes. So here, let me put this in. Cut some more. I like the freshness of tomato in the sauce. And you know, anchovy is one of those, well, anchovy is actually in the family of sardines, you know, the little blue fish. And when you see them in the water, they go in schools. They're like shimmering silver blades. And as the light hits them differently, they're so beautiful. And you don't hook them, but you net them. And locals, you know, they go out and get these anchovies for lunch. Just get a net, and you dive right in the water, slowly spot a school, you surround it with the net, then you slowly hoist up the net full of these little jumping anchovies. And there's different ways of preparing them. Of course, when you first get them fresh like that, I just love them, you know, a little bit of flour and fried. And they're delicious, warm like that with a nice salad with a little bit of coarse sea salt on it. They're the best. I mean, I can eat almost a pound. I just love. Now I want to put a little bit of peperoncino. We'll zest it up a little bit. And I think at this point, we might be ready to introduce the capellini in the boiling water. Salted boiling water. Just let's sort of loosen it up in there. Give it a twirl. And just when it comes up to a boil, we will put it right into the sauce. I'll take a little bit of the pasta water to make the sauce. Now, capellini, being very thin, absorb a lot of sauce. So do a nice juicy sauce. Okay. 1 minute more, you see? Never mind, half a minute more. You don't want to overcook it. Actually, I want it right now. It is still hard. I'll put it right into the sauce, and it will finish cooking right in here. Still hard. The biggest injustice that you can do to pasta is overcook it, but especially capellini. Capellini are so fine and they cook so fast that it is really an understanding of when to pull it out. And sometimes just when it bends, you can pull it out and put it right into the sauce. You see, it's gliding. The tomato is still fresh. Okay. I think I'll put just a drizzle of oil. Adding it like this at the end, you really retain the maximum flavor of olive oil. A little bit of parsley just to give it that freshness. Oh, right. Okay, we are done. Can you imagine? This is done. All right, let me close the... Oh, wow. It's flowing. It's not overcooked, and it's really flavorful. Let me plate a plate for you and for me. Make that mound. You know how I taught you to sort of twist it right in the middle? That's it, just like that. I will collect a little bit of the tomato sauce itself. Just like that. Now, just a little bit more of parsley. And, you know, we usually add cheese, but in this case, I'm going to add toasted breadcrumbs. Just at the end, a little bit, it gives you a little bit of crunchiness, and instead of cheese and anchovies and all, it's a little too much. The breadcrumbs will do the trick. You know, ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. I want it to smile at me. I need a little, just a little more of this green gold here. I think it looks perfect. Looks beautiful. Let's see. I won't even touch that. I'm going to make myself a little corner here, and I'm going to add a little breadcrumbs, and I'll tell you in a minute how this is. Ooh. Delicioso. Really, really wonderful. Pasta, simple, but the tomato is just fresh. Complexity, anchovies, the capers and all that. These pronounced individual flavors that really come together, and all from your cupboard. You saw that. As long as it took me to explain to you about anchovies, we had a dish done. And of course, this is a nice pronounced dish. So maybe a little gattinara from Piemonte, a great red wine. Not a big wine, but a fruity and a delicious red wine. And I have one for you also. And I want to invite you, as I always do, to my house. So, tutti a tavola a mangiare e cin cin. Mamma mia,